Welcome back, S'mores, to a really great episode of Beyond the Campfire. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to think of how to start this off, but yeah, we got a really fun episode today, don't we, Steve?
That's right. We have cursed paintings, house fires, and a demon possessed boy, potentially. So, yeah, a lot of fun stuff today. Today we are covering the topic of the crying boy painting, which
Hmm.
was actually not even just one painting, but several paintings that were alleged to have caused house fires in England in the 70s and 80s. So we'll be breaking all of that down. But yeah, before we dive right in, will any announcements or things that our s'mores need to know?
Well, no, just make sure you like, comment, subscribe to us on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're listening to us from. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Beyond Campfire, and you can find our TikTok at Beyond the Campfire. It's either at Beyond the Campfire, Beyond the Campfire, or Beyond the Campfire podcast. One of those three should work. But yeah, without further ado, what you got for us?
Alrighty, yeah, let's get into it. So, our story takes place in England. I feel like we've been in England for several of our episodes, so we are returning there again. And in the 70s and 80s, there was a series of house fires where people's homes were being burned down and pretty much everything would be destroyed except for paintings of a crying boy.
Oh boy.
So, where does that get off? So, the crying boy paintings, what are they? Where did they come from? Who are they painted by? So we'll get into that, and we'll talk about why some people in England to this day still believed that these paintings are cursed. So the Crying Boy paintings are a series of mass-produced prints that we don't actually really know who painted the first one. However, most of them are attributed to an Italian artist by the name of Giovanni Bragolin, who painted the first one in the 1950s. So there's several versions of the painting. Most of them depict a crying boy. However, some of them depict a crying girl. Some of them also have boys and girls making other facial expressions. But the common theme seems to be a young boy or a young girl that is not particularly happy. Now, why
Hmm.
someone would want a painting of a crying child up on their mantle of a fireplace? Who knows? I don't know, man. It's one of those things where
You know,
sometimes why a TikTok trend goes off. But did you have a? Do you have a?
yeah, it's like why does your mom have to have those stupid little seashells in the bathroom? Like
Yeah,
there's just I feel like we collect weird objects. As I don't know why.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where a few people do it, and then a few people are like, "Oh, whoa, that's really cool. I want to do that now." And then a lot more people do it, and then before you know it, it's like you have thousands of these paintings in people's homes all over England. So
White women, am I right?
yeah, it's actually interesting. A lot of the people that were buying these were young couples in their early 20s, and yeah, they'd buy a home or buy an apartment or whatever they could afford. And yeah, one of the ways they wanted to decorate their house was with this painting of a crying boy. So
I think the weirdest painting or photo we have in our house is us feeding Steven cake on his birthday. It's hung up in our hallway. And it's because it's a good photo, but it's like I think this is the only weirdest photo or painting we have.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but even with that, that's still a personal photograph, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
moment of our lives, and it's remembering something. It's just like this is a random child, and he's not
Why
even.
why like what who are you? Epstein clients?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like it's not even a happy child. It's a child that is in distress. Like he's not happy. He's not having a great day. You know,
Dude, I couldn't have that in my house because, like, you see them commercials where you got like the song "In the Arms of the Angels" playing, and you see the sad little children, and they're like, "For only $2 a month, you could save these kids and feed them." And it's just like,
oh
I don't
god,
want to see that on my TV. I was just watching Happy Days, and now
the
I'm having sad days.
Shriners Hospital or something like that.
Yeah, like this kid has cancer. for
Yeah,
$1 a month.
it's always some bald kid who's had to have their head shaved or something.
And
And
they're
then
like, if you donate, you could get this free teddy bear and this free blanket. And it's like, it's not free. I paid for it.
definitely pulls at your heartstrings. Which off topic, but I was at the gas station today and I found this drink,
Oh my gosh, we saw that at the grocery store the other day.
Sprite plus tea. So it's Sprite plus sweet tea. It's actually not too bad. I don't know if I'll get it again, but it's kind of interesting. You drink it, it tastes like Sprite, and then it has like a sweet tea aftertaste. So
Oh, I got good old homemade Southern brew.
there you go. Like I said, if you like sweet tea, you're better off just drinking sweet tea. But
We're not sponsored by Sprite,
we're not sponsored
but
yet. But
if
maybe
somebody from Sprite is watching this and wants to sponsor us, Steven will drink Sprite tea again if you send it to him for free.
there you go. So
Sprite watches this, then sends you like 30 crates.
I know, right?
Have fun.
Just get drunk on Sprite and sweet tea. But anyway, all right. So where were we? So yeah, these become really popular in the 60s and 70s. And yeah, the thing was these could be reproduced pretty easily. Department stores and catalogs really started to sell them throughout the UK in the 1970s. And yeah, they just became pretty common in working class homes where again it was mostly young couples buying these things. Sometimes you
Yeah.
have people, so yeah, maybe a British version of Will and his wife would have bought it.
Yeah,
But
the stupid version of us.
right, but a single guy like me probably is not buying this painting. So
I just don't understand it. It's like I don't like obviously there's gonna be we're gonna talk about more like demon possessed objects and such in the future because there's a bunch. But it's just like you feel like at this point the rule of thumb is if it looks creepy, don't buy it. Yet people will still say, "Oh, you know what? That looked cool sitting next to the TV."
I know,
And then
right?
they buy it, and then they sit there and they're like, "Well, why'd this happen? Why am I hearing screaming in the night, or why am I seeing a shadow guy standing at the foot of my bed?" And it's like, well, maybe if you just avoid the creepy objects, you know,
They say common sense isn't so common, but I
play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
oh for sure, for sure. Okay, so where does the legend begin? Well, in September of 1985, a British tabloid called The Sun ran a headline saying, "Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy." The article reported on a house fire in Rotherham, where the home was destroyed, except for a framed print of the crying boy that was left unscathed among the ruins. Thoughts so far?
That's that sends up red flags right there. It's like, you know what I said? Play stupid games with stupid prizes. You want to go buy this creepy butt painting, and then your house burns down. The painting survives. You were stupid enough to buy the creepy painting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, so for me, I'm the more skeptical one of the two of us, and at first glance, I hear the story, and I'm just like, well, yeah, weird stuff survives house fires sometimes. So I'm like, okay, I don't think it was the painting necessarily. I think it just happened to survive. Here's
Yeah.
where it starts to get weird.
Well, before we continue, let me ask you this because, like, we've stated our opinions on, like, we've stated our beliefs on ghosts, and we both believe in demons. Do you believe that objects could be possessed by demons?
Do I believe that objects could be possessed by demons?
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about it too much, but I think I'm going to say yes. And the
Hmm.
reason is because whenever we did the Robert Dahl episode, Robert Dahl was an object, an item, and I fully believe that Robert Dahl was possessed by something. So I'm going to say yes, I do believe.
Yeah, because I just want to ask it before we continue because I know, like, there is, like, we'll talk about her on the podcast, another creepy doll, Annabelle. But, like, Annabelle, we know for sure is possessed by a demon. So that's why I didn't know, like, what your thoughts were on object possession.
Yeah, I think objects could be. I think demons can do all kinds of things. I
Oh yeah.
haven't done extensive research on demonology yet. That's going to be a topic I cover sometime whenever I do Beyond the Bible. Um,
Ooh.
uh,
Maybe beyond the Bible, beyond the campfire crossover.
yeah, honestly, I'd be down to do a crossover episode of that. But yeah, I'm gonna start looking into demonology more because again, demons are not really something I've researched too much. But hey,
Well, as Christians, we need to know the enemy.
yeah, hey, fair enough, fair enough. So,
So,
all
anyways,
right. So here's where it gets weird. This was not the first crying boy picture to survive a fire. In fact, firefighters reported multiple cases of house fires in which crying boy paintings survive intact, often without even being scorched.
that's
Uh,
freaky.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
very. The Sun, after printing the story, soon got letters from hundreds of readers, each claiming similar incidents that their home was destroyed by fires and that the painting remained unharmed. Thoughts before I
Mm.
move on?
I mean, see, that was the thing was when I got you set up for this episode and like I picked this topic, I was thinking it was one painting, but that's what gets freaky about it is it's like that makes you question. Okay, is it a legion of demons that are possessing all these paintings working together? What's going on here? Like, is it one demon possessing all the paintings and he's just jumping from painting to painting and then burning a house down? Like that's what's freaky about it is it's like, okay, one case, sure, maybe freak accident. But for it to happen over 100 times to different people to strain
Yeah,
like Jim Bob down the road, who I have no clue I know about him. I find out, oh, his house burned down the same way mine did. It's like that's just freaky. I don't like that.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So, all right, man, we'll keep moving on. So, yeah, hundreds of readers start sending in saying like, yeah, that happened to me too. My house burned down, and some other people actually reported other bad things happening, car accidents, divorces, stuff like that. And a lot of the people said their problem started when they got the crying boy painting.
Mm-mm.
So now all of a sudden it starts to go from, maybe this happened once or twice to, wait a second, hundreds of people are all of them are reporting the same thing at the same time. Very weird.
Mm-hmm.
One firefighter was even quoted as saying he wouldn't allow the painting in his house.
This is wild. It's like Robert the Doll all over again, except for it's spread out in a wider range. Because when you're like, oh, these houses burned down, the painting was fine, but then the people who own the paintings are getting divorces, getting in car crashes, like just all the bad luck's falling on them, and it's just that's what it's. Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah, wicked stuff. So, yeah, well, obviously, news of this started to spread all over England. People were freaking out. And yeah, mass hysteria started to form. People started to burn the paintings in public. Others gave theirs away, while others simply buried them. The Sun, the newspaper that first reported it itself, even organized its own mass burning event, encouraging readers to send in their paintings to be destroyed. And
Oh
then,
boy.
yeah, people started mailing their Crying Boy paintings to the Sun to the point where the Sun had a room specifically for the Crying Boy paintings. And they said they had like stacks upon stacks upon stacks of Crying Boy paintings in this random basement room at the Sun's headquarters.
Yeah.
So now, was it a wise idea to bring all of those together? Who knows, man?
Oh, you just and that was when the sun got wiped off the face of the earth because they brought all the negative energy to them.
Right. But yeah, just imagine you're wandering around the Sun's building, you open the door, and there's just hundreds of Crying Boy paintings in there.
I'd piss myself.
Right.
I
So,
would light a cigarette and toss it in there and be like, get some lighter fluid.
okay, well, I have two more things to talk about. So I'm going to talk about who is the crying boy? Who is the boy in this crying boy painting? And then I'm going to have kind of the aftermath of the 80s, like how people have reacted to it and what they still think about it to this day. But what happened was there was a car accident where um, a crying boy painting was in the car, and the car was completely burned. It was totally destroyed. The painting, of course, survived, and etched on the painting was the name Don Benillo. Now, who is Don Benillo? Well, somebody who was reporting on the paintings wrote this book, and he said that Don Benillo was an Italian mute orphan whose parents had died in a house fire.
Mm.
When this had happened, Don Benillo was adopted and taken in by a Catholic priest in a small Italian village. After the boy was adopted, strange occurrences and unexplained fires began happening wherever the boy went.
Mm.
So he'd go visit someone in the village or he'd go buy some groceries. And then later on, that person's house would burn down or that grocery store would burn down. And it just seemed like, yeah, wherever this kid went, this Don Vanillo kid, things were just burning down and getting destroyed. The Catholic priest
Yeah.
who was raising him even started to be afraid of him and called him the Devil's Boy.
Ooh.
Thoughts before I move on?
Well, that's not that's a pretty badass nickname, but I would not want that badass nickname. But that's freaky to think like we we you heard about the painting, like the painting is burning down houses, and then there's a guy who gets in a car crash and the painting survives, and etched in the painting is this kid's name, and then it turns out that the kid's name, this kid, was setting fire to the village.
Yeah. And was he doing it intentionally or was it just following him? Who knows? But there's more to Don Danilo. So, and actually, we're going to get to Giovanni Bragolin, the guy who painted this in
Oh.
the first place, because this connects to the Don Danilo story. So, the local Catholic priest began to warn people in the town, hey, don't bring this child into your house. He might ask you for some candy or a soda or something like that. He's like, don't let him in. He's going to ask to come into your house. So let him into your house because if you do, a fire will follow. That's how seriously this Catholic priest started to take it.
That's wild to me. Like, you've got to be filled with the devil to scare a Catholic priest.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I mean, the villagers took heed. They were already freaked out by the fires. But yeah, whenever the boy would come to their house, they would shoo him away or beg him to leave. So,
Yep. Get out of here, you little beggar. Get out of here. Scat.
anyway, one day, Giovanni Bragolin was traveling through Italy and he wanted inspiration for a painting. And as he was walking, he saw Don Benillo sitting on the sidewalk looking very sad. And Bragolin said that he was so moved by the child's sorrowful demeanor that he decided to paint him in a series of melancholic portraits, which later became known as the Crying Boy.
He screwed up. You could have painted anything else. You could have painted a flower. You could have painted the beach. You could have, been painted something for Playboy. But instead, you
It's
chose the crying boy.
it's very funny that you mentioned that because Giovanni Bragolin, when he painted the Crying Boy, this was actually kind of out of character for him because he was mostly known for painting topless women. That just
Dude, you could have stuck with that.
I
You
know
could like
that was his thing apparently. But
would,
yeah,
would you rather be Stephen, would you rather have a haunted painting of a crying boy or a haunted painting of a topless Italian woman?
golly man, I want to be married one day, but I don't think a topless woman in my house is gonna get me a wife. But
Hey, you never know. She might be like, "Oh, is that Giovanni's art?" I'm very familiar with that. He's got such exquisite taste. I mean, look at how he colors the nipple.
between between a curse painting that will burn down my house and that, I guess I would rather choose the obscene image. Although yeah, but
He would
I,
prefer it if it was a Latina woman.
okay, all right. Anyways, I digress. So, have we
Uh,
talked about how I like Latinos on this show before?
yeah.
We
Hmm.
have. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know you and me have joked about it on DMs and stuff. I don't know if we had ever actually said it on Beyond the
I don't
Camp.
know. I think we have.
Anyway,
Anyways, so he decides to paint this sad little boy and feel pity for him.
well, the Catholic priest catches him doing it, and he tells Bragelin, "Hey, man, don't do this. I'm telling you, this isn't going to end well for you." Bragelin was just like, he's just a boy, and just like, look at the sad expression. Isn't there something kind of somber about it? And he's just like, yeah, it's creepy. Don't paint him. But Bragelin didn't listen, and lo and behold, Bragelin's studio mysteriously burned down,
Oh my lord.
and a painting of Don Benillo survived intact.
Dude, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah. So anyway, so what happened to Don Benillo? Well, a few years after the painting started to become really popular, Don Benillo himself was tragically killed in a car accident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some villager got real pissed about their house being burned down and said, "Well, I'm gonna take out the threat."
The fire was so great and so hot that Don Benillo was scorched beyond recognition.
Wait. You cut out there for a second.
Nope, I'll say it again. Don Benillo, the fire was so great and
Wait, so
so
wait, what fire?
oh wow, Don Benillo in the car accident.
Oh, I thought he got hit by a car.
No.
I thought somebody hit him with a car. I was like, wait, what fire? I thought somebody did a drive by. Like,
No. He was in the car. The car crashed. It produced a fire. It was so great and so hot that Don Benillo was scorched beyond recognition.
fire and brimstone.
So, was he a devil boy? I don't know, but definitely weird things were happening with him. So,
That how why are people stupid? You know, like if a Catholic priest came up to me and says, yo, what you doing? Why you painting this kid? And then I'm like, cuz look at how sad he is. And the priest is like, don't do it. I'm not gonna do it. I don't agree with the Catholics, but I'll listen to the Catholic priest.
exactly. So, um, I have a Chat GPT story for us, but and that should wrap up this
Okay,
episode.
before we do
Right.
that, can I ask
Go ahead.
what happened after all this? Like what like obviously we know Don died,
Oh, right.
but in the 70s and 80s, when did this stop? Did people like I guess when they just gathered all the paintings and burned them all, they got rid of all the paintings, right? And
Yeah.
that was the end of the story.
So most of the paintings have been destroyed. They no longer exist. However, some still do exist, and some people still have them hung up on their homes to this day. There are still some reports of houses burning with the paintings, but it's kind of died down. So not as many people talk about it as much.
Mm.
So
So, question for you. I'm not going to use my card because maybe it'll latch onto me and I don't want to get divorced. Maybe you should use your card when this takes off and we have our studio and we have a painting of him hung up in the studio
hey, that would be fun.
if we want to risk that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, I'll go ahead. I think you and me can give our theories. Um, I actually am highly skeptical, even though some of the evidence is pretty interesting.
Mhm.
To me, there was thousands of these paintings going around, and there were a lot of reportings of fires and the things of it surviving. Um, but I don't know. I almost want to see the data of how many houses burned down where the painting also burned that we don't know about. And also, like, how many
Yeah.
people had the painting hung up in their house for decades and nothing happened to them? For me, it kind of just feels like this was a case of mass hysteria where one person heard something and another person heard something, and then it just kind of spread without people slowing down and thinking, like, guys, is it actually the painting or could it just be a coincidence? So I am skeptical. But what about you? What are your thoughts? I don't
Well,
know.
I'll ask you this. Okay, so you're skeptical of the whole painting fire. What about the boy?
Don Vanillo?
What do you think about Dominello? Like, if you think the paintings are a product of mass hysteria, well, how do you feel about Dominello? Do you think Dominello's story is true?
Yeah, I don't know. There's only one source of the Don Vanillo story. Now, the thing that is weird was the one painting with his name on it, so that does suggest that he probably did exist. But as far as him existing, does that mean all this stuff happened? So I'm agnostic. If the Don Vanillo story is true, then yeah, I'm more likely to believe the paintings are cursed. But if the Don Vanillo story was kind of just exaggerated, then I'm just like, well, I don't know.
I think I'm kind of the same way because it's like if the Dominello story is true, which I kind of want to believe it's true just because of that whole painting being found. So I think there is something with Dominello. I think he could be the key to all this, and so could the paintings truly have happened the way they did? I don't think all of those people happened. Now, could some of them have been, actually happened? I think there's a possibility that some of the paintings could have truly actually. There's been a random house fire. These people bought this painting, random house fire, painting survives. Why it survived, who knows? Why the fire started, who knows? But I wonder if there's like a couple of them little small cases where that happened, and then everybody else started like, oh, I had that same painting in my house. My house is burned down. So I wonder if it's a mixture of truth and mass hysteria. You know?
Right. It's possible, man. So, all right.
So
Let me pull up the Chat GPT story, and then I think that'll close us out today. So, um, alrighty, cool beans. Let me find it. Okay, so Chat GPT. The story is called Ashes and Tears.
oh boy.
It takes place in England in 2025. Okay, so here we go. The smoke still lingered, clawing at the air like it refused to leave. What had once been a quiet stone cottage on the edge of the moors now lay in scorched ruin. Only the chimney remained standing, like a sentry keeping vigil over the dead. Will adjusted his cowboy hat as he stepped over the cracked threshold, boots crunching on blackened glass. Smells like evil, he muttered. Stephen followed behind him, flashlight in one hand, Bible in the other. His eyes scanned the ruins with quiet grief. No deaths reported, he said softly, but the owners are in shock. This was the third fire on this street this year. And everyone had this painting? Will asked, flicking his light toward a soot-streaked object nailed to the only intact wall. There it was, a painting of a boy, no more than 7. Tears glistened down his face, eyes hollow with sorrow, painted in rich, near lifelike detail, and untouched by flame. Stephen stepped closer. It's him, he whispered, the crying boy. The room grew cold, their breath clouded in front of them. Suddenly, from behind the wall, a whisper. Vanillo.
Oh
Will,
boy.
Will spun around, hand near the revolver he wasn't supposed to be carrying in England.
I like that detail.
Who said that? I forgot guns were banned in England. So,
Even knives are banned in England.
Yeah, that's right. So you just have that. We're
Break
investigating
the
the fire.
law.
You just have that. So anyway, okay. Will spun around, handing a revolver he wasn't supposed to be carrying in England. Who said that? The air shimmered. A figure appeared in the scorched hallway. The translucent image of a woman in 1940s dress, her face pale, streaked with tears. A ghost. Stephen instinctively opened his Bible, but the ghost raised her hand, not in threat, but in warning. You don't know what you carry, she said, her voice like a wind through leaves. The boy is not just a painting. He was fire made flesh, a curse in sorrow's form. Stephen stepped forward, calm and reverent. Who are you? I was his nurse in Seville during the war. He never spoke, but fire followed him. They called him Don Benillo, the devil's child, but he was only lonely. Will raised an eyebrow. Wait, the Don Benillo? We thought that was just legend. The ghost turned to the painting. The artist thought he was capturing grief. He was capturing vengeance. Every stroke bound that boy's pain to canvas. When Benillo died, the spirit didn't leave. A gust of wind shattered a nearby window. The flame of Stephen's flashlight flickered. He doesn't want to hurt, the ghost whispered. But the fire comes when he's forgotten, when he's left behind. That's when he cries. Will glanced at Stephen. That explains the scorch marks and why the painting never burns. Stephen looked at the ghost. What do we do? Burn it? She shook her head violently. No, that will only release him. Stephen bowed his head in thought. Then we pray, not just over the house, but for the soul of a boy lost in sorrow. The ghost's eyes softened. Yes, that may soothe him. By candlelight, Stephen read Psalm 34 aloud. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. As he spoke, Will held the painting in gloved hands. For the first time, it seemed the boy's expression changed. Not a smile, but something softer, less burdened. The ghost faded, the room warmed. As it drove back across the dark English countryside, Will broke the silence. You think that kid ever knew peace? Stephen looked up at the stars, quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he said honestly, but tonight I think we helped him find the first tearless hour he's had in 70 years. The end.
Wow. All
Yeah.
I can say is, technically speaking, is if you watch Supernatural and you want to get rid of evil spirits, you're actually supposed to salt and burn the bones.
Aha.
So fire would work.
I need
You
to
just
watch
got,
it. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
yeah, like I said, you need to get on DVD though, because the streaming services, they got rid of the music.
That sucks. So, all right. Well, that's it for this episode. What do you guys think? Do you think that there was a Don Benillo? Do you think that the paintings are still cursed to this day? There are thousands of people in England that still believe in this curse. So,
Have you? I was gonna ask you. Did you ask your cousin about this?
I did, and he's like, oh yeah, he's like that's a North England thing, because most of the fires happen in North England.
Yeah.
London's more in the south, so he said he doesn't really know, but he's like, yeah, he's heard some people in the north talk about that. So
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. This was another good episode. We got a lot of fun, good content coming out. We should be having the Patreon episode out Thursday or Saturday.
I'll, we'll have it recorded soon.
We'll have it recorded soon. We'll have Steven's episode come out, and then in about 2 weeks will be the St. Augustine episode, just so we can kind of space them apart. But and then maybe we'll probably talk about it later. Doing some like summer themed kind of horror stuff to kind of go. Maybe we'll figure out something for Patreon for the summer. But make sure you guys check that out. You got anything else?
That's it.
All righty. Well, thank you guys again for watching. We appreciate you guys, and don't let the boy in your house. And if you do, well, actually, don't let the boy in your house because we don't want toasted s'mores.